Let's get more on this from Anne-Elisabeth Moutet from Paris. She is a columnist at the Telegraph and UnHerd magazine. Anne-Elisabeth, we are going to see now a rerun of Macron versus Le Pen in the second round of the election. But how is this race different from 5 years ago? Do you think Le Pen has a chance to beat Macron this time? And what's at stake?
I think Marine Le Pen has a narrow chance of beating Emmanuel Macron because the numbers are not quite with her. And it's very interesting that all small parties were crushed and the three main candidates essentially sort of swept up most of the stakes. So when Jean-Luc Mélenchon says 3 times, do not vote for Marine Le Pen, Jean-Luc Mélenchon is the leftist who came third. It's really interesting because actually he is vying for the same electorate as Marine Le Pen, which is the working class electorate that feels abandoned by the government. And it's been shown in every poll and sociological study that about 1/3 of his voters might vote for her, and vice versa if she'd lost and he'd come second. So that's really interesting. On the other hand, Éric Zemmour has immediately said he was himself going to vote for Marine Le Pen, but it is very likely that 1/3 of his own voters, and that's fewer voters than Mélenchon, will actually not vote for her because they find him acceptable. They do not find her acceptable. It's like three-dimensional chess. It's very complicated. Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen are going to have one debate on television between the 2 rounds. This is what killed Marine Le Pen 5 years ago. She was very bad in the debate. She has been working on this ever since. And depending on the result of the debate, you will see things changing or not. And also you're going to see the result of people voting for candidates they do not like to bar the way to other candidates they really did not want to see in, and whether that will hold for 2 weeks. It's a very complicated election. It's nothing like last time. And it's interesting in the way that the Chinese curse says, may you live in interesting times.
Yeah, interesting indeed. And you said nothing like the last election. In fact, turnout was down this time compared to 2017. Why are we seeing this disengagement within French politics?
I think what happened is that essentially the world is changing. It's changing in French politics. It also happens to be changing worldwide with the war in Ukraine, the presence of Russia as an aggressor on the European continent. So all sorts of things are changing. The long years, 20 years without inflation is sort of coming to an end. All of this is changing. People are worried. There's one thing. And the other thing that Emmanuel Macron has done, and it was a gamble that looks like it's paid off, but it's a very it's sort of anxiety-forming quandary. He killed off traditional parties, the Républicain Party, the Valérie Pécresse Party, which was Nicolas Sarkozy's party, and in a different shape, Jacques Chirac and Charles de Gaulle Party. That is now dead. And Valérie Pécresse polled fewer votes than she must have in order to have her campaign expenses reimbursed, which means in a sense that also the party is literally bankrupt, not just morally and politically. On the left side, Anne Hidalgo, the Paris mayor, who was the socialist candidate of the party of François Mitterrand and François Hollande, same thing. She can't pay her campaign expenses and nobody's going to help her. So you've got this sort of tabula rasa that Macron wrote, and there's a responsibility when you essentially say, this is me or chaos, this is me or the fascist. And it's dangerous because in a sense it says, there's only one person you can vote for and all the others are extremists. It's not a nice choice to have.
Yeah, and do you think the lack of turnout that we saw in this first round will have an effect in the second round if voters just don't like the choices that they have?
I'm going to use an expression that was used for Brexit. We are now full blast in Project Fear, which is, in a sense, to tell everybody in France, look, do you want her to get in? And therefore, you must vote for Emmanuel Macron again. And my question is, political time has gone so much faster now, the news go faster, things that would sort of, decide an election 2 months ahead are forgotten. And so I do not know whether Project Fear can last for 2 weeks, and that's really a question.
All right, we'll leave it there. Anne-Elisabeth Moutet joining us from Paris. Thank you.
Thank you.